Hey everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. Today, I got to talk to Ron Reich. He is the president and owner of RLP Training and Development. And we got to talk a lot about leadership, especially when it comes to emotional intelligence and quiet quitting. How can we prevent that? You don't want to miss this. Let's get at it. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I have a phenomenal guest here with me today that has so much great experience that he really is willing to share with us today. So without further ado, I want to get right to it and introduce Ron Reich. He is the owner of RLP Training and Development. Ron, it is great to meet you. How you doing?
Kenny, I am just fine, and truly, I am really glad to be here. I want to tell you right off the bat, one thing that I'm noticing is your energy and your passion, and I appreciate that. I mean, I really, really do. I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do, and people have told me just over the years what a difference that makes.
Yeah.
And seeing yours just instantly makes me that much more anxious to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Right. We got to love what we do, no doubt. Ron, I want to start here because there's so much I want to dig in with you today. What are, in your opinion, we're right on the cusp of going into 2023, and leaders are faced with so many different challenges today, but what would you say are 2 to 3 of the biggest challenges that leaders face today?
Kenny, you know what? If you don't mind, I think what I'd like to do is even just turn that around for a second, if I may.
Of course.
And let me just ask you, what do you believe are the major reasons employees become unhappy and dissatisfied at work across the country and across all of industry? And then, of course, I'll share with you my thoughts and tie it into research.
Yeah, I think it's several things. It's so funny because I happen to have kids of that age, and one is in management and a couple of others aren't. And so I try to speak to them all the time and go by what I see. So they've talked about money being one thing. Let's put that to the side for a second. But it is mostly just having leaders engage with them and being challenged, right, by their leaders, not the mundane day in, day out, but just having a conversation like you and I are having now with their leaders. And that seems to be the biggest reason, because one of the things I have written down here, I wanted to ask you about quiet quitting and disengagement. But to me, from what I see and from the conversation I have, it is just leaders just not taking that effort to engage and really challenge and I don't know, inspire all of the folks that work with them. To me, those are the main things.
You touched on it. I mean, you really did. The number one reason people become unhappy at work, again, across the country, across industry, is their relationship with their direct manager.
Mm.
The number 2 reason people become unhappy is their relationship with their peers, their colleagues, their coworkers. And number 3, it's a lack of recognition and it's a lack of respect.
Mm-hmm.
The key point, Kenny, for me, is that there is no separation between those 3 things. And what I mean simply by that, research is clear on this. And every single session I did one this week in Manhattan, the people said, oh, absolutely, this is my experience. People become unhappy with their direct manager because the direct manager does not provide enough recognition and does not show them enough respect. And it's the same thing with colleagues and coworkers. People become unhappy with their coworkers because they don't show each other enough respect and or recognition. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges
Mm,
that's out there.
mhm.
And for me, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it astounds me that leaders don't grasp this and organizations don't grasp this because it's not that hard to do at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not. I mean, it's a simple, Kenny, thank you know, in the restaurant industry. I mean, I'm just thinking about it. My someone I know worked in that industry for many, many years. Elaine, thank you for staying so late last night and helping to clean up the kitchen. I know you didn't need to and you didn't. I appreciate that.
Mm,
Elaine, you know what? You are doing such a fabulous job with with all of our clients right now. I mean, my goodness, with all the events going on, we haven't had any complaints. That's great work. How long does it take to say that?
yeah.
How,
Exactly.
please just consider
Yeah.
how that builds a relationship.
Mm,
And
mhm.
equally as important, though, Kenny, too, because I heard you say this relative to, one of your children, or maybe more than one, whatever, is that included in that, though, with the relationship with manager is the manager finding out what are you interested in,
Mhm.
what do you want to do, what are you passionate about, how can I help you to grow,
Mhm.
do you want to get promoted? Do you want to learn laterally? And again, once you find that out, that's how you build the relationships. That's how you build respect, and that's how you retain people.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, by the way, boss, yep, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it, Ron, is part of it that leaders think that what you just said is a foregone conclusion, especially in a restaurant or retail world? And even if it is, why would we still not do the things you just talked about?
I think a lot of it is, at least my experience has been, that's the reason, you have a job, you should be happy to have a job. And or I'm too busy to recognize people. And it's like, and again, Kenny, it takes, how long does it take to say thank you?
Yeah.
Think about the ROI for a 10 or a 15-minute conversation about career growth. And just, so simply too, just sitting down. How are the kids, Kenny? What's going on? What's the
Yeah.
latest?
Yeah.
What are your plans? I mean, I'm a huge New York Giant football fan. I
Hmm.
have been for many, many years. Hey, Ron, you must be thrilled about the Giants. Oh, I am. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Hmm.
That's where this comes from.
Hmm.
And that's where the relationships start. That's where they get stronger.
Hmm.
And for me, and again, it's been my direct experience, it's been my observation as well. When when these relationships are in place and solid, that's when you get the discretionary effort from people.
Yes. Yes.
It's like,
No
yeah, of
doubt.
course I'll stay.
No doubt.
Instead of, I think I hear my mommy calling.
Yeah. it, is it that leaders, I never had any sort of issue of, because I got to a point in my career where I really couldn't, I didn't have two different personalities. How I am at home, how I am outside is sort of how I just became at work. And I never had an issue of showing folks, letting my hair down. Certainly not going out with staff and things like that, but being able to just have a conversation about what you just talked about. Is it that leaders are afraid that they might be crossing certain boundaries when they, because I don't get it. I'm just trying to understand and give, and use your expertise to get that advice for some that are probably going to listen to this and look themselves in the mirror and say, yeah, I do struggle with this, but I'm trying to understand why.
You know, Kenny, it's interesting because particularly with the younger generation coming up, and
Yes.
a lot of what's happening right now, or at least again, my experience has been a lot of middle managers are moving into or they're moving into management positions for the first time, and they're managing people they used to work with directly.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the things, because they'll say to me, "What do I do?" I mean, Ron's my friend, or Kenny's my friend, and now I'm managing him.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, there are a number of different things here for me. Number one of the first thing, regardless of whether we have been friends or not over the years, any new manager or any manager needs to set the expectations really, really clearly for his or her team.
Hmm.
Hey, folks, really glad to be here. I'm really glad to be a part of this team. It's an honor. Yeah, blah blah blah. Fine. This is what I expect. I need your weekly reports every Friday by 10 a.m. That's a given. That needs to happen, everybody. I also, and again, I'm just thinking back. We were talking earlier about restaurants, retail, whatever it might be. Folks, one thing that's really, really critical. I need you here on time,
Mm.
and I expect you here on time. That needs to happen. And again, whatever else it might be. And then once those expectations are set, then the leader needs to enforce them. Along with that, I don't want to lose sight of the friendship piece, because
Yes.
I think that's a very important thing to address.
Yes.
What I always recommend to people who are managing people with whom they used to work is that just let them know, Kenny, I will always, always be friendly with you. Always.
Hmm.
I can't be your friend.
Mm.
It's just not smart for me. And given our relationship now, it's not smart to be friends. I
Hmm.
will always like you. I will always talk to you, and we can have fun conversations. I
Mm.
can't be your friend.
Wow.
And that's one
Wow.
of the expectations as well, though, along with letting people know some things have changed.
Hmm.
And you, Kenny, need to be aware of that. There are going to be some things I'm not going to be able to share with you.
Hmm.
Please don't ask. And again, I'm just taking this out of the air. Please
Hmm.
don't ask me about what other people are making.
Yes.
There might be some other confidential information. Hey, Kenny, what's the latest on? Is that, Kenny, I can't share that with you, and please don't ask me. That's not fair.
Yeah.
And then that's where there needs to be that mutual respect as
Yes.
well.
Yes. Yes. I love all that. That's amazing advice. And being able to set those expectations right from the beginning. And I need to also, I think if I'm a young leader who has just moved into that new role, I need to see an example of that as well. So, this is where the district manager role, the director role becomes so important to kind of spur that on.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, it's so, at least for me, it's easy to do. And when you do it right in the beginning, and just let people know I'm not kidding around with this. I mean, it's just done.
Yeah.
I mean, every single session I do, whether it is a leadership session, whether it's for line employees, wait staff again, whatever. I just let people know right up front. Everybody, these are the expectations. In order for us to succeed in this group, this is what I'm going to need from you. Please actively participate. I ask any questions you have.
Mm-hmm.
Address your colleagues. It's more, and again, my whole point of what I lead up to, everybody, I do need your phones on vibrate, and I'm going to ask no texting, no emailing while we're in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I explain to them very simply, folks, listen, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be a control freak here.
Mm-hmm.
It distracts me when you're texting or emailing. It distracts the other people in the room. If something, excuse me, if something comes up for you and you need to take care of it, I am completely okay with that. Very simply, please step out of the room and don't distract the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
we all agree to that? And everybody, yeah, I'm fine with that. And then if somebody starts texting, Kenny, please, you agreed not to text. Step out of the room, if you will.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And and so those expectations set, And I love that. Yeah, that's a very practical way of setting that example,
Yeah,
for them.
well,
Absolutely.
and you know, I want to follow up on that simply because we were talking about respect and credibility.
Hmm.
And years ago, I was in Washington, D.C., doing an American Management Association class, 3 day class. First 2 days, everything went fine, no issues. On the morning of day three, two individuals in the room were texting all morning, or for the first couple hours. They
Wow.
were sitting next to each other and they worked together. And I went up to them at the first break and I was like, gentlemen, this needs to stop. The two of you agreed not to do this. And I just told them, essentially, no more. We're both listening. I don't care whether you're listening or not. That's not the point. You're
Hmm.
distracting me and you agree to this.
Hmm.
Fine. They stopped texting. My point is, Kenny, one of the other participants came up to me at lunchtime. Thank you so much for talking to them. I was distracted. I was having trouble concentrating, and
Hmm.
that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And again, I was just like, yeah, wow. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, my credibility went up. I can't say that for sure. I think it did. Again, and
No
the
doubt.
point is,
Yeah.
you've got to enforce them. You can't just talk about them. You've got to enforce them.
No
No,
doubt. No
no,
doubt. Wow. Um, you know what I loved about that story? It really solidifies something strongly I believe in, Ron, and that is that people want to be part of an organized team, an organized place. And I think people will hesitate on peer pressure at first, but when it comes from the top like that, I would guess that probably if they had did the same thing, maybe 10 minutes later after you had that conversation, that there might have been some peer pressure there. But
exactly.
people come, especially let's say to a workshop like yours, they want to learn. They want to, and
That's
they
right.
don't, and people, I think people don't get up in the morning and, get dressed and, fight traffic. You and I are in the same neighborhood. I'm in New York, you're in New Jersey, and fight the type of traffic we have to do to get to work to just, yeah, well, it's going to be a bad day today. They come because they want to learn, they want to make money. I love that example. I'd like to ask you, because a lot of what you do, I see that you center a lot of things around and you talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And I know those have been, two kind of buzzwords over the last, 5, 10 years or so, maybe even a little longer. How does emotional intelligence, or one or two of those components of emotional intelligence, tie into what you're talking about now?
There's a quote that I like, and I use this in my sessions. It comes from Dr. Daniel Goleman, one of the real thought leaders from emotional
Yes.
intelligence.
Yes.
And what Goleman talks about is that approximately 85% of your success at work comes from your level of emotional intelligence. In other words, how well you work with other people.
Hmm.
It is not how good of a financial analyst are you? How good a district, how good are you at merchandising? How good are you at putting a menu together? No, it's about how well do you work with other people.
Mm.
And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. And there's so much more to it than people realize. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. I'll be glad to fill in any gaps and we can get into that in any direction you want.
Yeah, I definitely want to stay there for a few. And the impact that a leader's words and actions have on others, as well as the kind of, I hate to use this word, but ignorance almost of the words and actions that your impact has on others is such a direct tie-in for me. I saw so many times over the years, a leader will talk to someone in a specific way, just walk away, and I'll say, "Hey, man, did you see what you just did?" No, what? And they have no
True.
clue. Did you see that person's body language or the expression on their face? Talk a little bit more about that, and how can I just get better at that?
I think, well, no, number one, research indicates that tone of voice and body language are some of the key factors
Mhm.
that come into play when there is a conversation going on. That, in other words, really what I'm saying is very often it's not the words that someone is using that people focus on, it's more the tone, it's more the body language. And one thing, Kenny, for me, and in fact, it's funny because this is what I was talking about with my group on Monday and Tuesday in
Mhm.
Manhattan.
Mhm.
So often, people, and I put myself in this category as well. So often, people are unaware of behaviors that are disturbing to other people or that are bothersome. Whatever word you want to use there. One of the things I recommend with that is just a very simple start, stop, continue exercise.
Mm.
And all the leader needs to do, and anyone can do this at any level, is team of mine, colleagues of mine, whatever. What are some things I should start doing that I'm not doing currently?
Mm.
What are some things I need to stop doing
Mhm.
that are making life difficult for you? And what are some things I can continue to do that are working? In order for that to work, and this is a completely different topic, there needs to be psychological safety there so
Yes.
that people are honest.
Yes.
Just let's go with the assumption though that people are honest, okay? And you come back to me if I'm your boss, okay?
Mhm.
Ron, stop interrupting so much. You interrupt constantly.
Mm.
I don't think I do. I hope not. I'm just taking that out of the air. My point is though, Kenny, you,
Yeah.
you asked, how can I improve on that? Okay. If you come to me, Ron, please stop interrupting so much. There's something called the feedback loop that can help with that. And
Mhm.
very simply, the feedback loop is okay, Kenny, thank you for the feedback. At any point in time, here comes your feedback loop. If I'm interrupting you, tell me about it.
Mm.
Please just
Mhm.
tell me about it as soon as possible so we can talk about it.
Mhm.
I've had people, a lot of people over the years, just with personality assessments, whatever it might be. I need to stop being so direct. I need to be maybe more assertive, whatever it might be. That's where you can use the feedback loop.
Mhm.
Ron, can I talk to you for a minute? During that meeting, you were so aggressive with me. You were almost in my face as I saw it.
Wow.
And I might be like, gee, I didn't realize that. I thought everything was fine. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, the start, stop, continue, and the feedback loop it can really be beneficial there.
That is amazing, amazing, amazing advice. And that's something practical that you could do. You've got to take the time to do it, but it doesn't sound like it takes that much time. And I think
Right.
that's amazing. There's one more road I want to go down with you, and this has been incredible, by the way. Um, I, how does this now tie in with decision making skills? Because I think if we're not engaging our people, if we're constantly losing people, we're probably making some very short term decisions. But now, if we start to incorporate sprinkling of emotional intelligence, a sprinkling more of, just recognizing our people and inspiring and motivating them, I imagine that starts to lead to. I don't imagine. I know it does. Starts to lead to better decision making skills. How more does this tie in with that in your experience?
I think so much of this comes down to trust. A lot of it comes down to lack of a better term. The only word that's coming into my mind right now is the ego of leaders.
Wow. Yeah.
In that, I need to make these decisions.
Mm.
I'm the leader of this group. I need to make these decisions. And it's like, no, no, let your team make the decisions. They
Wow.
know more about what's going on. That's where the recognition and the respect comes from. And this is too, Kenny. I am, and I noticed right away when we started the books behind you. I am a voracious reader,
Yeah.
just voracious. And in one book I read called Leadership as Language, written by David Marquet, a former naval officer, in the book, he talks about let the doers do. Let the doers do. You don't have to be down in the weeds all the time. And along with that, though, very often in the leadership sessions I do, people, I'll always ask, what do you do when a colleague comes to you, boss, we've got a problem. What should we do? And very often, people will say back to me, oh, I just say to them, well, what do you think we should do? Fine. And that is the classic response. And I used to believe that strongly until I like to, again, stay current, just get the latest information.
Hmm.
I came across something a while back called the three golden questions. And they are golden in my mind.
Hmm.
You come to me, Ron, we've got a problem. What should we do? Okay, Kenny, I'll tell you what. And this actually can go, we can tie this back to expectations as well.
Yes.
Kenny, I'm not going to talk to you at all about this until you can answer the three following questions. Ron, we have a problem. What should we do? Kenny, what do you intend to do? Number one.
Mm.
Number two, what other options did you consider? Number three, what makes your choice the best of all the options you just considered?
Wow. Wow.
And for me, and I'll ask you, who if I were to say to you, what's your recommendation, Kenny? Who
Mm.
essentially is going to make the decision?
Yeah, it's probably going to be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What
Yeah.
do you intend to do?
Yeah.
There, the colleague who's going to make the decision, and
Yes.
that's what I want. And I mean, and when if you would, if you ask those other questions, what other options did you consider? What makes your choice the best out of all of them? What does that force the colleague to do?
Hmm. Yeah, it forces them to think, and then
Thank
they're
you.
they're brought in, they have
That's
skin in the
it.
game. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm learning more about you. I'm learning how you think.
Yes.
I'm learning how thorough you are, and
Mhm.
I'm not taking my own time to talk about this when it's your job to. And again, essentially, you as the colleague, I want you doing that. I can focus more on the bigger picture then, not the weeds.
Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful, beautiful tie-in, man. That is awesome. What great advice. I love those three questions. That's great advice. That's stolen, man. That is fantastic. That's fantastic. Ron, I could probably talk to you all day. This has been amazing. How can people get in touch with you?
Probably the best way, Kenny, is through LinkedIn.
Okay. Okay.
Go to my LinkedIn page.
Okay.
It is, it's Ron Reich, RLB Training and Development, and
Okay.
I can send you the links.
Absolutely.
And if you can get that out there. And I'll tell you what, Kenny, truly, I welcome the opportunity to talk to anybody.
Mhm.
And when I say that, it's important that I explain. I mean, talk to people. It's not, oh, call me and we'll see if we want to, we can work together. No, let's just have a conversation just like this. Let's talk about what's going on with you. If you want to consider working together, of course I would welcome that chance. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. I'm also not going to say though, oh, this is a sales call. Of course it is. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a conversation and we'll see where it
Wow.
goes.
Wow. That is awesome. And absolutely, I'll share that and big time. So yes, um, have a conversation with Ron, folks. I want to recommend that highly because I learned so much within this, not even a half hour. My goodness. And some things that I'm just going to absolutely put into place. Ron, it's been a pleasure. And I hope that to run into you somewhere
I hope
because
so.
yeah, I'm on Long Island, but I
Okay.
still get into the city, and absolutely, I know you're out there in New Jersey, but it is great to talk to someone from this area. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, Kenny, I would welcome it. Truly, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Ron, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Good.
This
I
has
hope
been
so.
Kenny and Ron. Yeah, this has been Kenny and Ron with the Leading from the Middle podcast. Thanks again, Ron.
Okay. Bye.